Hey, Arcturus here. Today, we're looking at the Space Wolves Dreadnaught. This kit builds 4 different models for use on the tabletop. It builds the Vulnerable Dreadnaught, it builds the Wolven Dreadnaught, and it also builds 2 character Dreadnaughts, Murderfang and Bjorn the Fell-Handed. I've gone for Bjorn the Fell-Handed. I did not see an easy way to magnetize this, but with a little work, I think it would be doable, but I chose not to. But this does build those 4 different models there. It's an excellent kit. We'll move the box out of the way there. So for Bjorn the Fell-Handed, you can build him with a variety of gun arm options. I went with the Hellfrost Blaster because I thought that was the cooler looking one. But you could also build him with a multi-melta or an assault cannon. He does also have a flamethrower attached here, but you could also make that a bolter. Although that would be used for a different dreadnought, as Bjorn can only use the heavy flamer, but if you prefer the look of another piece, you are welcome to model that on there if you prefer the other gun. I will say it is very nice that it does have this wolf skull here on the flamer. There's a nice little addition there, and you do get a very nice model bedecked in furs with very detailed plates, which I'll talk about how those go on in a second. And of course, the traditional dreadnought faceplate there. He also gets smoke launcher up here with a very nice wolf head for the center launcher, which is just very thematic. Some nice Fenrisian runes for the Hellfrost cannon, and a nice wolf piece there, and some extra space wolf themed markings on the dreadnought. This is a small model. It is only slightly larger than a Primaris. I will show you with one of the blood claws. So that's the size. Obviously, the width of the model is much larger than the Primaris. It's on a much larger base, but the height, it is not much taller than the Primaris. It does not stand much taller. It is much smaller, I believe, than the Redemptor Dreadnaught or the Primaris Dreadnaught. Although I don't have one of those, and so I can't show you the comparison because I haven't built one of those. But from seeing other people playing with those Primaris Dreadnaughts, this is much smaller. This is the older Dreadnought. It is still, I believe, only the Grey Knights still have this style of Dreadnought. I don't think any of the other armies still use this vulnerable older Dreadnought. Before we continue, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bjorn, as I mentioned before, can take a variety of guns. Typically in the art, he's depicted with the assault cannon. I just went with the Hellfrost cannon because I thought it looked a little better. The assault cannon gives you devastating wounds and is a 24-inch range, 6 attacks, 2 up ballistic skill, 6 strength, 0 AP, and 1 damage. It is obviously designed to be kind of your anti-infantry gun there. He can also take the multi-melta with an 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 9, AP -4, and D6 damage. And of course, Melta 2. And then the Hellfrost cannon has 2 modes of fire. It is a focused fire and a dispersed fire. The dispersed fire is like a flamethrower, so it has torrent. The dispersed mode is 12-inch range, D6 shots. With torrent, it's auto hitting. Strength 6, AP -1, and 2 damage. Where your focused mode is 1 attack at a 36-inch range, 2 up ballistic skill, strength 10, AP -3, 5 damage. And I just thought it looked cooler, so I modeled him with that one. Where I play, you can basically just swap them around, no problem. But if you're in a tournament, you probably would need to do whatever your tournament rules require, which I believe for most places is WYSIWYG, but I am not normally a tournament player, so I can't speak to that. He also has a standard flamer here, and a heavy flamer, I should say, which has ignores cover and torrent as well, with a 12-inch range, D6 attacks. 5 strength, AP -1, and 1 damage. For melee attacks, he also has True Claw, which has lethal hits at 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 12, AP -2, and damage 3. Just a very nice melee weapon there. Bjorn is one of the legendary heroes, or unique heroes. So you can only take one of him in a list. He also comes with Deadly Demise 1, and a 5-up Feel No Pain, along with a 5-up Invulnerable save. Based on some battle reports I've seen, he does not survive super long on the field. I definitely think his Invuln should be a 4-up, but that's just me. But for movement, he has a 9-inch move. He's tough 9, with a 2+ save, 8 wounds, 6+ leadership, and OC3. And of course, that 5 open vulnerable save. He, of course, benefits from Oath of Moment and has the legendary tenacity ability, which each time an attack targets this model, if the strength is greater than this model's toughness, it's -1 to wound, which is nice. I believe a lot of Space Marine units have that now. And he also has Ancient Tactician, which is the reason why I believe a lot of people bring him, because every turn in your command phase, you get an extra CP if he is on the field, which is just very, very solid. As I mentioned, you can build a few other models with this kit. So let's take a quick look at some of those in the instruction manuals, and then we'll look at what's left on the sprue after you build Bjorn. So you can build the Vulnerable Dreadnaught. You can also build the Wolven Dreadnaught over here. And you can build Murderfang. There are some difference in plates. So Bjorn has some unique leg plates, whereas the Vulnerable Dreadnaught and Murderfang and the Wolven Dreadnaught all share less ornate leg plates there. A lot of these have the same have a very similar shoulder pad for the wolf-covered shoulder piece. And then only Bjorn gets this leg plate. Of course, you could put that on any of the other ones. He also has some unique side plates here and the front plate. The other generic Dreadnaughts all have a head of some kind, as does Murderfang, but Murderfang also has some unique side plates there as well. I believe you could magnetize this with some work. I don't think it's as easy as, say, some of the knights are. You do get some very cool weapons, though, I will say. You get an awesome-looking large shield, which would make for great basing material because it is just absolutely enormous with some nice Space Wolf-themed parts on it. So it'd be great for either a Space Wolf base to kind of fit the theme of everything, or for a army that's already defeated some Space Wolves. And then Murderfang has these enormous claws that are a slightly different setup from the other claw that's available. And there are a couple different faces. There's a wolf skull. There's a standard helmet there. This is the connection for the wolf skull and some different leg plates there. The multi-melta. And then the assault cannon as well. And then here you have on the other sprue, you have the other claw for Murderfang. You have a back attachment. The rest of the other fur piece there. And then the front of the assault cannon, as well as the other parts of the chest plate, the other arm, the Murderfang plates, and then the axe. Which also looks awesome and would make a very cool basing material, I think. The downside to magnetizing this style of Dreadnaught is you don't get enough arms to build all the arms. And the way this piece attaches is it's actually a hollow disc that fits around this center pin, which would make it very difficult to magnetize this portion. I think it could be done. I'm not skilled enough to make it look good. I'm sure people have magnetized it. But I also kind of just decided I don't think this Dreadnaught's going to be around for very long. I think we're going to get a new one, which I'll talk about in a moment. And so I just decided it wasn't worth it. This arm could be easily magnetized because they are just a pin for both shoulders. So it's pretty easy to magnetize. You could swap this for the axe pretty easily. But again, I just decided it probably wasn't really worth it. It would be difficult to do Murderfang because you only get the one shoulder section, and then the front connection is a little different. And that's also true for the shield. Is you build the same arm and then you attach the shield here to a similar type round piece, and it just doesn't. I didn't see an easy way to magnetize it. Magnetizing the gun would also be difficult, I think, because it does connect. There's 2 layers of plate here. There's this outer piece, and then there's a flat section on the inside, and the gun sandwiches between them, and I think it would be pretty difficult to magnetize the gun as well. Overall, this was a really nice kit to build, even building it as Bjorn, which has a few more pieces than the other kit, just because it's an older style kit, but it's not so old. It's really awful to put together, but it's also not so new that there's like 40 bajillion pieces. The feet are both one piece. The legs are two pieces that are split in half. You can kind of see the seam here. They're just sandwiched together, and then they go right in the feet. So like on a new kit, I imagine if this one comes out with a new kit, these feet are going to be like 5 different pieces, which is going to be really annoying. It's also going to be a lot taller. So, I mean, does add to it. Even with all the extra pieces, like this fur piece and this piece is just 2 pieces that go right on top here, and it sockets on really well. This fur plate in the front just attaches to both sides of this, nice and easy. And these plates just slide right on top. You can kind of see my seam here. Nice and easy. This gun had 2 extra little pieces. It had one of these little front cone pieces, and then this plate here were 2 separate pieces, but that's not terrible. This was just 1 piece, this gun. The claw was 5 pieces, 1 for the disc, and then the 4 arms, or claw sections. But overall, this was a really nice kit to put together. After putting together the blood claws, which felt like they had too many pieces per model, it's like for how many you're building and the size of the model, it felt like there were too many pieces. But for this kit, it felt really nice. So that was a very nice thing to put together. The Vulnerable Dreadnaught can also take the shield, which you can also build with this kit. And that shield gives them a 4-up invuln, which is, I think, probably the way to go with them. It does lock them into being a primarily melee-focused build, because you do have to take the Fenrisian Great Axe, and then you can either take a Stormbolter or a Heavy Flamer, so it does really limit their ranged options, because otherwise you can take the Assault Cannon and or a Hellfrost Cannon or a Multi-Melta. I just think that 4-up invuln would make them far tankier. Otherwise, so they get all the same options as Bjorn does. The only difference is they also get a Stormbolter, which is just rapid fire 2, 24-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage, pretty standard Stormbolter. But for the melee weapons on the Vulnerable Dreadnaught, they have the Dreadnought combat weapon or the Fenrisian Great Axe. The Dreadnought combat weapon is just 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 12, AP -2 for damage 3. But the Fenrisian Great Axe has 2 profiles, a strike and a sweep. The strike is 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 10, AP -2, D6 plus 1 damage. So potentially very solid damage at 6 attacks and strength 10 from that Fenrisian Great Axe. And then there's the sweep profile, which is 12 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, AP -2, 1 damage each. The other benefit to bringing the Vulnerable Dreadnaught is you get a Fervor of Ancients aura, which is, well, a Space Wolf unit is within 6 inches of this model, add 1 to advance and charge rolls for that unit, which is very nice. The other 2 Dreadnoughts you can build are both Wolven Dreadnaughts, which have a little different of a loadout. The Wolven Dreadnaught, the generic version, can take either the Heavy Flamer or Stormbolter, so that smaller gun, and that's it. And then they can also take the Fenrisian Great Axe, as the Vulnerable Dreadnaught can, or the Great Wolf Claw. The Great Wolf Claw is 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 10, AP -3 for 3 damage. And for their loadout, they generically come with the Stormbolter, Fenrisian Great Axe, and Great Wolf Claw. But you can swap the Great Axe or Great Wolf Claw for a Blizzard Shield and Flamer. You also would swap the Stormbolter in that case. So a pretty different build out. The Wolven Dreadnaught gets the benefit of also having a 6-up Feel No Pain and the Bestial Rage ability, which is each time an enemy unit is selected to shoot after that unit has shot, if this model lost 1 or more wounds as a result of those attacks, this model can make a Bestial Rage move. To do so, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result. This model can be moved a number of inches up to the result, but must finish that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit, excluding aircraft. When doing so, this model can be moved within engagement range of an enemy unit, or of that enemy unit. So I believe you have to move closer to the one that's shooting you, which is a pretty nice thing, having played against an opponent with Chaos Hellbrute, which had this at one point. I don't remember when. It might have been in this edition, I don't recall, but that was pretty brutal when I played against that. The other ability this has is it has 2 melee weapons. Those melee weapons gain twin linked as an additional rule. The other model this one can build is Murderfang, and he also has that 6-up Feel No Pain. He does not have an invuln, but he has the same ranged weapons as the Wolven Dreadnaught. The only difference is he gains Murder Claws for his melee weapons, and that's his only option. However, with the Murder Claws, he is equipped with both a Heavy Flamer and Stormbolter, so he gets both those weapons. Murder Claws are sustained hits 1 and twin linked, with 8 attacks, hitting on 3, strength 14, AP -2 for flat 3 damage. Murderfang also has the limit of he cannot be the Warlord, and has the ability Murder Maker, which is also an aura. In the fight phase, each time an attack targets a friendly Wolven model within 6 inches of this model. If that model is destroyed as a result of the attack, that model has not fought. Roll 1d6 on a 4-up. Do not remove it. It can fight after the attacking unit has finished all its attacks, and then it is removed. And then also Bestial Fury, which lets him re-roll advance and charge rolls. So overall, I think the Dreadnaughts are pretty good. You can do an Oops All Dreadnaughts list with Space Wolves, because they do have 4 options. They're 2 character options, and then you can bring 6 other Dreadnoughts. I think you might need to round out your list with a few other options, but you could do mostly Dreadnaughts. I definitely think you would prioritize the melee version with the Blizzard Shield for that 4-up invuln, just to give them some extra survivability. But I haven't played that list, so I'm not entirely sure. Just from what I've seen of other battle reports of people playing with Dreadnaughts, definitely seems like Bjorn tends to leave the field pretty often. I haven't seen people really taking the generic Dreadnaught lists. I definitely think the primary option is Bjorn, just for that extra command point each round, personally. So that's the model and the various options you can take him as. Looking forward, I don't think this particular version of the model will exist past 11th edition. I think in 11th edition, we will wind up getting new Dreadnaught models. I think it's possible we get them before 11th in a Psychic Awakening style set of books with a new profile and new model. I don't think that's super likely. I think it's possible. I just don't think it's likely. But I would suspect we would get new Dreadnaughts in 11th edition, mainly because this is a very similar kit to the Grey Knights version. So I suspect they would update both Grey Knights and Space Wolves for the less generic version of these Dreadnaughts. I could be wrong on that, but that would be my guess, especially because the Grey Knights Dreadnaught is now in the Combat Patrol. So that makes me think it's really likely that we've got maybe until the end of this edition, and then there's going to be some new Dreadnaughts coming out. I hope they don't just remove it from the game. I think that would be pretty disappointing if they removed both the named characters and the generic versions from Space Wolves. I think that's a pretty cool thing to have. I don't know how popular Dreadnaughts are in general across the various armies, as I've not been playing Space Marines for very long. And I haven't actually played against very many people who have Space Marines. So I don't know how popular they are at tournaments. I haven't really looked into it. I do hope they keep this sort of Dreadnaught, even if they upscale it or update the kit. I do hope they keep these characters, and for the Grey Knights as well. I hope they keep the Dreadnaughts for that also. I think the game is better for having those sort of less generic versions of those characters, especially for something like Space Wolves and Grey Knights. I think it'd be cool if they had some additional vulnerables Dreadnaughts for some of the other armies as well. But my guess would be we'd get an update in 11th edition. So if you do want this particular version of the kit, I would expect you'd need to find a way to get it before 11th edition. Although I could be completely wrong on that. So take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.